maybe Laura, you also mentioned that you have on your Substack, you have images and so on. Maybe unmute and tell us a little bit how you work, and then I'll tell people how I work.
Most of the images I use are screenshots, or like I will pull them from like graphs and stuff from social media sites. And of course I use if I use an image that's Getty or AP or whatever, I'll use the proper what do you call it, citations, citations, whatever but I don't actually pay for the licensing of those images. And they've never contacted me about it. If anyone ever gets upset about it, I'll take the images down. But I think my publication isn't a big enough problem to where I need to like subscribe to Getty, as long as I'm crediting the photographer and the organization.
Yeah, I credit everybody. There's no question about that. And I do actually subscribe to quite a lot of newspapers, magazines. I read and really look at newspapers, at least 30 or 40 newspapers and magazines on every continent every week, and I pay for a lot of those myself. I figure that gives me just a little bit of license. I have a deal with the Cartooning for Peace people in Paris. They have 350 cartoonists. They're just an amazing organization. I have to credit them. They're just so fabulous, and they've been great friends of mine. I've been to their headquarters and spoken to them and so on. They're terrific. So, but I do try to make sure that everybody gets credit for what. And look, I'm basically a not-for-profit. I mean, not-for-profit in the sense that I'm putting in my money and I'm not making any profit out of it. So that I think, John, that's where we are right now. Next is Eddie Ruiz. To everybody, I believe independent journalism faces significant barriers, especially in underserved communities when it comes to covering all available topics, particularly due to the tension between monetization and journalistic integrity. Jane, have you found that also when you were working about that?
Like it's sort of two issues here. Like there's the barriers to entry, which is a massive subject. I mean, I have sort of, for me, as a cub, I wrote about this a fair bit in my book. Like there was a fair bit of like class barriers to entry in terms of how difficult it is to actually get set up as a freelance correspondent. So I mean, that's barriers to entry are massive, but they're actually coming down because of the very things we're talking about here, the ability to reach an audience without needing to impress one room full of people in suits. But I would also say, though, on the other point here, I don't think monetizing your work compromises integrity. And I say this as someone who worked in not-for-profit news for the sort of the greater years of my career, certainly the most rewarding ones. I think we have to get past the idea that that if we get paid to do it, that it somehow is less credible, or that we are less credible. I think that actually only adds to the earlier problem, which is, people to have entry, they need to be able to make a living. They need to be able to make a decent living. And I don't, and so I do typically push back against the idea that monetizing our work means compromising its integrity.
Right.
Jane, I want to support what you're saying, and I really, really, really believe that this is a very important message for all journalists and visual journalists, as there is a stigma, and then it accentuates when you are a female journalist, or like you are from an underrepresented community. And I think that yes, the stories are very important, but your sustainability is as well. And as we continue to become, to further dive into our field and become experts in whatever it is that we're focusing on, that is even more so important. Look at Laura, where you are saying you're creating very important content, and you hope that one day you're able to just focus on doing that instead of having to freelance. And I think that's a very important goal. And the system, the industry itself, should be working with all the different parts should be working together to make that happen.